And we are live. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Aaron the dog, actually Aaron the pup, back with the most puppy of breakdown shows. It is going to be on my birthday, June 15th, from the Apex, which is a gift to all of us. And Alex Perez is back in the main event. Thank God, just the way God intended, facing Tatsu, Taira, and a bunch of other fights. So, this card is interesting. I don't hate it completely. I have a few bets that I'll get into with the panel here. But before we get into it, last of the panel last week, first of the panel this week. What will be next week? Just my 2 cents. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. Shout out to you, first of all. Thank you for having me, as always. Shout out to the rest of you gentlemen on panel, as always. Peace to the chat. Make sure y'all smash the like button for Aaron. And, dude, there's no way I would miss the greatest card that I've ever fucking seen on paper. So I'm just over the moon to talk about it. And, hope everybody's doing well. Let's have a card.
Absolutely. And hopefully my internet is sticking with it here. I'm getting some more, but either way. Lou, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. This card is fun if you like betting minus 500 props. And there's a couple of spots here that are interesting, like about even money. A couple underdogs that I like. So I think there's value to be found, but it's a weird constructed card. Like, I don't know who asked for like this to be rebooked. So
yeah, it definitely is, and I'll definitely talk about sort of the interesting aspects of it. And the Zhongli went anywhere from plus 875 to plus 2,000 to plus 1,600. So it got all over the place. I feel like the Zhongli is always a good barometer of a true card, anyways. Lucky Locks making just his regular trip to the show at this point. Not even going to make a big deal about it anymore. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. Coming off a good week on KSW, Octagon, and on UFC with Dom Reyes. So, I'm looking forward to chopping this one up tonight.
Yes, sir. Yep, I got Dom at plus 170, plus 190. So, definitely it was a good week for the dogs. Hopefully a few of them can come through this week. We'll go ahead and get into it. Mountain Vets shouting out lucky and only lucky. I agree with that shout out there. And then the Mick out of nowhere, stubborn variety. What up, sir? And Nick Alexander, good day, mate, as they say. All right, we're starting out with a bang here. Because I think this will actually be a good fight. I think these two are about the level that they should be. LFA legend Melky Costa, I should say. I'll speak for myself. I'll be curious when Lucky talks. Never would have thought he would have made it to the UFC from the LFA. I kind of think he's. I'm kind of surprised at how kind of favored he's been since going in to the UFC in some of these fights. And I've myself not been a big believer in him. I think that he does a lot of things kind of wrong. And he's facing Shailin Nurdan-Becky here, who is probably most famous for exposing James Krause with the Ponzi scheme or whatever. But either way, like Nurdan-Becky, he's a decent wrestler, does kind of slow as the fight goes on, which is a concern of mine, but no one believes in their jiu-jitsu game and their bottom game more than Melky Costa. So I do think he could just willingly go there, particularly early, where Nurdan-Becky has some power. Costa's very tough, hasn't been finished by strikes, I don't believe, ever, if I'm not mistaken, other than his last fight against Steve Garcia, which both guys were finished. I think that Nurdan-Becky definitely has a route as the underdog. I got him at plus 145. He's at plus 160. So either way, I do think that Nurdan-Becky is the side for me, especially at such a wide plus money. So I think he could just kind of wrestle him and, use some power to kind of control him. a finish would surprise me, but finish on either side would surprise me here. So I like Shailin Nuerdanbeki by decision if I had to choose. But I'm fading Melky Costa until he's out of the UFC. So just my 2 cents.
So I agree with you if you are on the Shailin side. I'm on the other side. This it's kind of weird because like Shailin, I don't know if you can say he's like the public dog, but I've seen quite a few people on him actually. And if you look on Tapology, he is the last time I looked anyway, he was like ever so slightly favored by the public. So what I did is I put a 2-piece together and it's a fade the public dog pick. So like he's still the underdog, but quite a few people are picking him to win the fight. So I'm on Melky Costa. I'm hoping that Shailin doesn't get the takedowns because I think, like you said, like if he does, he can win a decision. But yeah, I like Costa on the feet. Shailin is very low output, and he's kind of like sloppy and wild on the feet too. And like Costa isn't like the most fucking precise, clean, accurate striker, but he hits really fucking hard, and he's gonna have a pretty big reach advantage, and he's just like the better kicker, and I see it taking place at mostly like kicking range on the feet. So yeah, give me Costa here. Is it my most confident pick ever? No, but like I think he's the better striker, and they both got finished by Steve Garcia, but man, I don't like Shailin's chin, and he's kind of soft to the body too. So yeah, give me Melky Costa here.
I think Melky looked much worse against Steve Garcia though. But either way, like that's fine. I'm not like in love with Nuerdanbeki. I find a way to love whoever Melky Costa is fighting. I'll be honest. Back to LFA. So this is again,
it's like a Melky Costa fade.
Yeah, Costa shouldn't be nearly minus 200 against anybody in the UFC. Lucky Lock.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wow factor in this opening fight, is there? I mean, Shailin is a 3-2 fighter in the UFC. I'm not really a huge believer in him. Costa as well. I don't really think of him as a special talent. I think it was, to piggyback on what you were saying, Aaron, it was kind of like a right place, right time situation that got him into the UFC in the first place. I mean, he made his debut on the LFA Brazil scene. He lost to Italo Gomez, who's kind of mid, and then he got a knockout over Junior Mello, which, I mean, if you know, that chin is beyond dusted. So he was able to get him out of there, and then they needed a replacement for Thiago Moises' fight like a couple months later, and he was fresh. He was ready to go, so they got him in there. He does have a little less mileage on his engine here. I mean, Nuerdanbeki has like 50 fights at 30 years old, which is crazy. Costa is a southpaw. And, Shailin has only faced one true southpaw in his 5 UFC appearances because TJ Brown is technically classed as a switch stance. And that was Steve Garcia. He got knocked out in the second round. Funnily enough, exact same thing happened to Costa. And that was kind of tripping me up when I was looking into this one because I was like, wait a second. And then I was like, oh, yeah, both of them fought him. Basically in this fight, I kind of agree with 2 cents here. I think Costa's a better striker. I kind of think that Shailin needs to wrestle to win. And I don't really think that's going to come super easily. So, I mean, give me Costa, but, I'm not really enthusiastic about it. I'm not going to be betting on this fight. Kind of a meh opening fight to me.
Yep, fair enough. Lou, any reads on this one?
Well, there's nothing like deadlocking the panel on the first fight of the night here.
It's that kind of card.
I'm on the Shailin side, but for a little different reasons. I leave the technical stuff to Lucky, who knows that way better than me. But here's a different angle on this. He closed at minus 195 against Austin Lingo. He's like within 10 cents of that price right now against a guy that I think like Shailin would absolutely destroy Austin Lingo. So just from like a gambling perspective and a market perspective, it's weird that that's the same price. Like, I don't know. It's weird. It's very strange to me because I don't know what cost is shown on this level to justify being a 2-1 favorite. And the other thing is the way he fights. I don't want to say he's a good hammer and a bad nail, but he's the kind of guy who, like, if everything's at distance and he's dictating the pace, he wins minutes. If Shailin's crowding him, getting him against the cage, going for takedowns, even if he's not getting takedowns, Costa can't get his kicks off. if he's just trying to box Shylon, I don't really know how he covers a 2-1 favorite here, unless Ernbeke just tires late. So I think the value, I mean, to say the value is in the dog is kind of not a very hot take. But to me, the line is wide. Costa should be, I don't know, minus 120 at best. So from a betting perspective, give me Shylon. If Costa keeps getting bet and put in parlays, I'll get there, but we'll see. If I get there, it'll be like right before the fight start.
Yeah, I wish I would have held off, but minus 140 on the over 2.5. I do think this probably doesn't get a finish either way either. So I feel like that over 2.5 and minus 140 is better off than getting Melky Costa as well. Melky at Hawk here, I don't get it at all. So move on to the next fight. Oh boy. There will be points scored. I don't like either one of these fighters at all. Julia Pilastri, very unimpressed with her, honestly. And Josephine Knutson, I mean, she's the most exciting fighter in women's fighting today. Very dangerous and just lethal in there, just waiting to go off at any point. Emphasis on the point. Julia Pilastri looks so slow though. Like yes, technically, yes, she's throwing like good strikes, but they seem very slow, like deliberate, but not on purpose, if that makes sense. Like she'll probably land the harder shots, but I feel like Knutson's gonna be like kind of like in and out, like 3-4 shots, then dashing away, electric sliding, mixing in a takedown here or there. I'm not a believer in Julia Pilastri's grappling game still, believe it or not, even though she has had some amazing submissions the last couple of fights. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. This fight's gonna last. If this fight was a 500-minute fight, it would last 500 minutes. So it's going to a decision, and Knutson is better getting points than Julia Pilastri. So I guess I'll take Josephine by decision, but I'm never betting it in my life. This is awful. Lucky Locks, tell me why I'm wrong. I'm a casual.
Yeah, Pilastri, I think she's a little bit better than people think, starting to come into her own at 26. I think she has some decent skills. She lost in Contender Series to Jasuda Vicious when she was just 23. She won 4 straight after that and won the strawweight title in LFA. Got a second round sub on her Contender Series redo and got into the UFC. She finished all 3 of her last 3 wins. You know, this is a tough one against Knutson, who's a pretty highly touted prospect. She comes from K1, has shown a lot of wrestling in her MMA career. However, she can be a little bit low volume for my liking. I think she's pretty boring, just straight up. I just don't like watching her fight. I think she's boring. And Pilastri does get a lot more volume out there. She's a better jiu-jitsu player. I do think Knutson, a little bit more precise, a little bit safer on the feet as well. I think she could get takedowns here. I think it could get a little bit dicey on the mat with Pilastri, but I think that she's kind of just physically imposing and strong enough to where she'll be able to deal with it. I'm going to go with Knutson to win here. I feel like people might need to lessen the immediate enthusiasm around her. I feel like, as she starts moving up into tougher fights, I think she could definitely get exposed. I'm just not super high on what she brings to the table. I'm not interested in this price on her, but I do think that she's going to win a boring one here.
Okay, I thought you were getting ready to convince me on Pilastri there for a second, but just being respectful to Julia for some reason. Lou, disrespect these feet too.
This is an important time to bring something up since this is a betting show. So the last 2 weeks, we have not been in Las Vegas. We've had some really suspect and dicey split decisions going ways that didn't make sense. Both of those cards were not under the new unified rules of MMA. We saw people getting takedowns, not doing anything with them, and winning rounds. Now we're back in Vegas where, strangely enough, the judging is better. I don't want to say good, but at least it's like a little more consistent. I bring this up because I don't think Knutson's going to try to wrestle here. I think she's going to want to just keep this distance. She's low volume, like Lucky said, but she's really accurate. I mean, she may be low volume, but she lands at a super high clip. and she's got a little bit of pop. Not like, I mean, she's not a big. I know she doesn't knock people out, but I know Mark Man can't defend shit. But everything she landed like had that thud. Like it looked like everything just hurt. They were nice optics. I think Knudsen wins the decision here. And I bring this Vegas thing up because even if Pilastre does get a takedown, I don't think she'll be able to hold Knudsen down. And even if she does for like a minute, I think Knudsen seems to be defensively responsible. So I don't think Pilastre having a minute of top time or grappling is going to swing around when Knudsen's probably landing everything. I still think Pilastre's striking defense has a lot to be desired here. So right now, I mean, somebody dropped a bomb on Pilastre. I'm going to be honest. This is another one where, like, if money keeps coming in on Pilastre and this thing gets down to, like, 140, and then you can get Knudsen decision close to even money, I'd probably take it. So,
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. There's been some odd line movement on this whole card. So,
I mean, right now her decision prop is minus 135. I mean, we're getting in range where, like, it's going to become playable if you really just think she can win like a clean 30-27 of just boxing.
Mm-hmm. All right, 2 cents. Is the coin coming out?
The coin is not coming out, boys. I am going to be the lone dog backer here. So I'm on Julia Pilastre. Give me Psycho J. I think Bunny Lebowski is a fucking fraud, man. I think Fawn Knudsen is super fraudulent. I think Marnik Man is one of the worst fighters on the roster. And yeah, like she's a good grappler. She's at a good grappling team, but she ain't fucking grappling nobody. Like she's just grappling these like nobodies on the regional scene and fucking Marnik Man. And like, I just think Pilastre's meaner. And like she fucking whooped Bruna Brazil's ass in a kickboxing match. I watched that on tape when I was, checking this one out. And like, Bruna Brazil fucking destroyed Marnik Man, and Bruna Brazil's not very good. So like, I don't think that like Fawn Knudsen is just some like, I don't know, man. I don't get all the hype behind her. I guess it's the novelty of like an undefeated like Swedish chick. I don't know, dude. Noah talking about aura. I think the aura is all on Pilastre. I think if she wins, she's going to be much more like marketable. I don't know, man. I think she's like. I don't know, improve the grappling. And I disagree, man. I think if she gets on top, I think she can sub this bitch. I don't think like Knudsen is really anything that special. And yeah, I don't know. Give me Pilastre. I got her at plus 200. And like historically, when I beat the line, that's a horrible sign. I've been doing really well with these like plus 200, around plus 200 underdog chicks, low level chick fights. It's been making me my money this year. So it's becoming a bit of a system play, and I'm just going to keep keep going to the well. Maybe it's fucking Icarus flying too close to the sun, but yeah, give me Psycho Julia.
Fair enough. Minus 185 on Knudsen, plus 155 to the Pilastre side. So I see some Pilastre love. Enjoy. I am not going to be participating in that fight. Next fight. A little bit of a Jika time. Taking on the Weston Wilson. Like, I don't know what to really break down about this fight. If Jika's a fraud, he loses this fight, period. And if this goes to a decision, I congratulate anybody who bet on the decision. I feel it is Jika KO or a Weston Wilson meme sub. And Weston Wilson, like, I don't know. I have a weird feeling in this spot that Jika does something stupid to give up his back to Weston Wilson, and Weston Wilson chokes him out. So, you know what? Fuck it. I'll pick it on air. Weston Wilson by first round submission. I think that Jika is a fraud, but this is being set up for Jika to get a KO, and I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong on this one particularly. So at this point, I don't really know who's up. Let's go with Lou. because I feel like the order got messed up, but whatever. Lou, just go.
I think we're going in order. This seems like the perfect fight for me to lead off of. His round one sub is plus 800. I mean, we're not even getting like, dude, I'm already freed, man. Does he not? I think he even follows me on Twitter. I don't even know why he's saying that. Yeah, I mean, what do you want me to say here? Like, Jake is not good.
No,
it's terrible.
True.
But like, I mean, people are like, I mean, the usual suspects are parlaying Jaka, and it's like, well, first of all, wouldn't you just play him like round one, round two, KO, at least cut some of that number off? Like, I mean, I'm gonna pick Jaka to knock out Weston Wilson in the hottest take ever.
Sure.
But I'm never betting it. I'm never betting this under, which is insanity. Like, it's almost minus 300 now for the 1.5, which is like, this is banana land we live in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm never betting this fight. I kind of hope it just gets like me. I mean, I want you to win a round one sub bet if you bet it. If you don't bet it,
I'm not
like,
going to bet it.
Like this going to split decision would just like warm my heart. This is that kind of fight where like, if people just think this is like a free square and they throw it in their bets and this thing ends up like Sergey can't get to the chin and then he shows like good takedown defense and this thing gets to the third round, like, and that would just kind of crack me up. So I'm going to pick Jake at round one. There's probably more value in him getting a round 2 KO if you wanted to like at least, do something that's realistic. It's plus 500 for round 2. That means the KO is not going to be much more here, but it's 600. I mean, that's probably, if you wanted to find some value, that's probably your likely value bet here. But
yeah, I mean, again, can't make it more clear. Would not betting this fight at all.
Is
But
2 cents using the coin for this one?
This might be the male coin fight of the night. 2 cents.
I don't know how many fucking times I have to say this. The coin does not work.
This is kind of a chick fight, though. This is kind of a chick fight.
I mean,
what about a penny?
What about a dreidel?
No.
Right, there you go.
I tell you what.
Spin the dreidel.
You guys flip. You guys can make that your own now. Like you can.
No,
flip.
Fuck off.
You can lessen the value of the denomination or whatever.
Right,
but
go ahead and pick Jika, you square.
Yeah. I mean, the Weston Wilson thing, I get wanting to fade Jekka, but he's going to starch this motherfucker. I mean, y'all know what's about to happen.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thanks.
I mean, what did you want? Oh, Weston Wilson. Weston Wilson's. What Jack is going to spark him in like a minute flat. So there you go.
He's going to give up his back and get choked out. Lucky. Go ahead and pick Jika so we can move on.
Yeah, I'll do it. He's really not that great. I mean, Anshul Jabli beat him. It's about as red as a red flag gets. He does have some explosivity, some power in his hands, some aggressiveness. Weston Wilson doesn't have any of the three. I don't think he's good. I think he's way overmatched at the UFC level. Not to say that Jeka Sergey is necessarily UFC level, although that's kind of a sliding scale. Nowadays, I really wouldn't put it all the way past Jeka Sergey to fumble here, but, I doubt it. Wilson's been knocked out twice in less than a year. He's been getting finished in round 1 since he was an amateur. So, yeah, I'd say Jeka Sergey wins.
All right. Fair enough. I'll just leave Peter Pan's comment up there since I tweet so much, especially about MMA.
What's Jekka by sub? Because Weston Wilson's been subbed like 4 times himself, and only one of them's like a good fighter. So I bet that's fucking crazy.
Jekka
8-1.
Yeah, good for you if you pick that one up. Good for you. Next fight, not good chick fights here. This one. I'm not very excited about. Apparently, Carly Judice is the next great thing. The line movement, everybody and their mothers is betting Carly. here. I went back and watched her fight. She's a good kickboxer. It seems like she's learning the other aspects of the game as she goes. And Gabriela Fernandez, I was always like, she's okay, even with her LFA fights and in the UFC. Not very impressed with her so far in her 2 fights. She lost to Bleda her last time out, getting kind of gamed into getting taken down by Bleda in round 3, and just things that aren't all that great. She's got some good stand up to her. She's, got like kind of a good, bouncing kind of karate style with her striking as well. I think it will be an entertaining striking bout. I think that it will kind of be dictated by how successful either of these fighters are in mixing up the other aspects of their game. I'm sure Carly has been working on her grappling and wrestling. She looks to be the stronger of the two and has more of the gas tank, but doesn't have the experience. So I don't know. For me, this fight, I'll go with Fernandez just from an experience perspective. Sounds like he smokes about 2.5. Yeah. I'll just leave this comment up there too. These are good comments. But yeah, I'll take Fernandez. I don't really understand the movement towards Carly, and I don't like fighters getting into the UFC who shouldn't be here. So I guess I'm just, I faded Costa on his circumstances of getting into the UFC. And same with Carly. She had a split decision against an inexperienced fighter who is like a former swimmer from, Europe. So I don't know. I don't get the Carly love at all. So I'll take Fernandez, but not betting it with any amount of money ever. 2 cents.
Now, this is the kind of fight, boys. This is what I'm talking about. I will not waste your time any further. You know what time it is. It is the coin. The coin will be brought out. The favorite is Gabriela Fernandez, I believe. She will be heads. Carly Judice, fucking 4-fight Carly Judice that everyone and their fucking mom is loving as a dog this week. She will be tails. So here we go. The coin will speak. Pretty strong flip. Fucking Carly 4-fight Judice is what the coin says. That will be my pick. I couldn't give a fuck less. There you are.
Excellent stuff. Lucky, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Judice, she gets signed to the UFC off of a loss in Contender Series because the fight was fun. I don't think she's all that good. She is very game, and that can kind of be half the battle sometimes in these type of low-level fights. She's quite inexperienced with only 4 pro fights. She knocked out 3 cans in the first round and then had a slobber knocker with Ernesta Karaskady. I saw her getting a bit of training in with Andrea Lee and Victoria Leonardo, for whatever that's worth. She does have some decent boxing, to be fair. Gabriela Fernandez, 0-2 in the UFC so far. 2 pretty tough matchups in Bleda and Jasuda Vicious. Has fought the better level of competition. I mean, Keila Braga isn't really a great win, but it's a name that you recognize in the Brazilian regionals. Caroline Martins, you could probably say the same. I mean, Fernandez is a pretty good striker. She has a couple of submissions on her resume as well. She's at MMA Masters right now, seems to be in good shape. I know a lot of people are jumping on Carly Judice. I'm not going to have any money tied up in this fight at all, as if that even needs to be specified. I don't really know what to make of this one. Like I say about a lot of these types of fights, it's kind of hard to care. I'm going to pick Fernandez, but yeah, no bet.
Fair enough. Lou.
I would like to correct Lucky if I can. Judice is here because Dana White is obsessed with these inexperienced athletic blondes. And since Haley Cohen keeps canceling her fights, this is what we get. We get this instead. All right. So Fernandez has been against 2 grapplers. Obviously, that's not going to be the case here. Somebody dropped a bomb on Judice and moved the line. So it's very strange. I don't know if it was my guy, Just Win Baby, calling Fernandez the mush of the week. So it's very possible he moved the line with that tweet. The problem with this fight is Judice is young. She hasn't fought in a year or close to it. We don't really know if she's improved. She seems to have good cardio. She has good volume. I think everything Fernandez lands isn't going to be like Karasete, where it's like jabs and like kind of meaningless shots. Fernandez has power. She's going to hurt Judice. So I'd lean Fernandez if you wanted to just get some kind of value here. Maybe the KO, but I mean, there's too many unknowns here. Like, we'll see what Fernandez looks like against a striker on the UFC level, even though she's not fighting a UFC fighter. And we'll see if Judice has made improvements. I don't know. I don't want any part of this one. We'll see. I'm kind of rooting for Fernandez just to like this experiment ends with putting undeserving people that lost from the Contender Series on the card anyway.
Yeah, plus 135 for Carly Judice at this point, minus 162. The under 2.5 is at plus 165. I think that's kind of interesting. I do think both sides have some decent finishing upside here. So, but again, no bet for me on this one, but I'll take Fernandez. Next fight. I think this is a decent fight, I guess. But again, I just think that one of these, fighters is not all that good. And like, even though he's on a 2-fight win streak, which fighter am I talking about? It's between Brady Hiestand and Garrett Armfield. Grady Armfield, I'll call him for the rest of this breakdown. Why not? It's Brady Hiestand. I don't think Brady Hiestand is very good. I think he's very, very fortunate to have won the last 2 fights after losing a split decision to Ricky Tercios. He had a decision against Fernie Garcia that was fine. The Baturiel fight, the Danan fight, it was a good finish in a fight that he was losing. I think that his kind of lack of volume and kind of eventual desperation for takedowns, I think they're 2 things that are going to kind of hurt him against a guy in Armfield, who I think Armfield fights guys who are kind of longer and taller than him a lot better than a lot of guys at this weight class. For one, bantamweight, I think sometimes they struggle with Brady's kind of frame. I don't think that will be a struggle. I also think Garrett has just a significant volume advantage. I also think he can be the one to have success in the wrestling. I just think he's a much better fighter than Brady and I kind of think this is one of the spots for me that at minus 185 is worth putting in the Zhongli. So Zhongli struggling to find participants this week, but Garrett Armfield is going to be one. I think that he wins a decision pretty handily in most cases. I don't see finish on either side. I think Brady slows as the fight goes. Even coming off of that 3rd round finish, it wasn't just didn't sell me. So give me Garrett and give me him by decision. 2 cents.
God, I really want to pick Hiestand because everyone seems to be on fucking Garrett Armfield. I don't know, man. For as much as like people shit on Bracatona and even like myself, I shit on him sometimes. Like, I don't know, man. I think people might be overrating that win a little bit. He probably beats Hiestand for the same reasons. Like, I think Katona, I don't know, man. Maybe Hiestand stronger than Katona, but I don't know, dude. This one, I'm with you. I kind of do think it hits the cards. But if Hiestand, all that shit he's saying about one test of striking, I think if he tries to do that against Armfield, he's going to get chin checked. He got knocked out by Anheliger. He gets fucked up in every fight, it seems. Like, just about everyone he fights puts blood up in his fucking nose and just bad visuals, like not the best chin. Like, he's a fucking grappler that's, tried to improve his striking. But, fuck, man. I really wanted to bet Hiestand. I'm not going to do it. I'll just be a puss and pick Armfield. But, yeah, I'm staying away and hoping that Hiestand wins just to fucking, I don't know, man. I don't get all the Armfield love, but I do think he gets it done.
Well, tough shit. He's in the Zhongli, so you're stuck with him.
As if I would ever not tail the Zhongli.
Yeah. Lucky. I'm hoping the Zhongli can get to 4 figures this time. It might not be. But Lucky, what's your side on this one?
Yeah, it seems like Armfield's kind of becoming a bit of a darling in the MMA space. I'm not really that big on him. I don't think he projects super high. I don't think he has a particular elite skill that could really propel him past certain matchups as they come more demanding. Katona, though, was a good win last time out. He is better than I originally thought he was. Heastan, on the other hand, has some characteristics that I like. I think he's really athletic. I think he has a good build. I think he is pretty good wrestling. He's still very young, a little bit bigger as well. We've seen Armfield struggle with similar styles to Heastan. Obviously, Ronnie Lawrence beat him on LFA. Mateo Vogel subbed him on CFFC. David Onama, I wouldn't say he has a similar style, but he submitted Armfield there as well. However, I do think Armfield probably has what it takes to get past Brady Heastan here. I feel like Heastan would probably have to hold him down for like 3 to 4 minutes per round for 3 rounds to get this win, because I just don't think he's going to have much for Garrett Armfield on the feet. I was going to say I'm pretty sure, but I know he's not as good of a submission grappler as a guy like Mateo Vogel. I don't think he's going to be able to get to those positions. I think, like I said, he's going to be just at a discernible disadvantage in the striking. And, Tercios was able to have his way in the striking with Heastan. Armfield looked really good on the feet with Katona. He just could not miss in that fight. He was very accurate, pretty responsible on defense, and Heastan can be hit. So I'm going to go with Garrett Armfield. But, he has struggled a little bit with the heavy wrestling style in the past, but I just feel like Heastan's going to need to have a ton of control to win this. And I think that all the moments that's not happening are going to be going to Armfield. And I think there's going to be a lot more of those than there's going to be Heastan on top.
Yeah, I agree. Lou, what's your thoughts?
So most of my timeline all I've been seeing is Brady Heastan bets and Heastan round 3 bets. And, it's not for me. I think Armfield is going to KO him here. The KO prop is terrible. It's like plus 215. It's an awful number for this. They didn't credit Fernie Garcia with a knockdown of Brady Heastan, but he knocked them down. And Dana literally 10 minutes of dominance and death gassed in that fight. Like, Heastan has looked incredibly unimpressive to me against guys I don't think are very good or athletic. He held Fernie Garcia down and like threw no strikes. Like, he was content to just kind of win minutes. I understand the concern that you can push a high wrestling pace on Armfield and maybe tire him out. I think Armfield's going to tag him with every punch that he throws. I like him at Marathon MMA too. I think Trey Ogden's like going to end up being this amazing, weirdly good coach. Like 10 years from now, like that gym might get built up because like it seems like he's just one of those dudes that like his fight IQ is super high. He understands how to coach. I've never heard a bad thing about him. Armfield seems to be improving with him. I like the striking. If he stuffs 1 or 2 takedowns here, he's going to knock him out. I think he just wins every second of this fight that's on the feet. And again, we're in Vegas. Damage is important here. Is Heastan, who doesn't really throw a lot of strikes in the ground, unless he gets like 4 minutes of control time, all the damage is going to be accrued by Armfield on Heistan's face and his legs. So I think Armfield cruises here. I don't even think the line's wide enough. I think Armfield should be a bigger favorite than this. I think he has him covered. Like, Heistan's only hope is that either Armfield gasses in third and doesn't win the first 2 rounds, or that Armfield can't stuff any takedowns in this fight at all. So, yeah, I'm just not super high on Heastan. I think this is a good spot for Armfield.
Yep, I agree. Minus 185 to Armfield, plus 154, I believe, to Brady at this point. It seems to have kind of stayed at that point now for a little bit. So interesting fight. We will move on to the next one. Right now, this is second from the featured prelim flyweight fight. I watched a lot of Jimmy Flick fights earlier today, and they're very funny because they all kind of have the same thing. And I'm taking on Nate Manis here at 125. Jimmy Flick, gives it his all, goes for like a weird scramble at some point, maybe gets it back for a second, goes for a knee, something like that. Then he gets hit at some point, cracked in the chin, and he puts his hands together and he's like, come on, and he says like, let's go, and like does that, and then it's eventually coming. He's getting dropped, and like none of his knockouts have been like horrible knockouts. They're just like his body kind of just gives out at a certain point, it seems like. And Nate Maness, coming off of that last fight against Mendonca, I don't know what Mendonca was really doing in that fight. It was a very weird game plan of just continually going for that knee bar and letting strikes go to his ribs and then to his face, and then eventually he was put out. I do think that Jimmy Flick could get his neck with a pull guard on a pull gilly. I think he could end up getting a quick submission. It would not surprise me at all. This is kind of another spot like the Weston Wilson spot that I'm even more so thinking about a bet on the submission for Jimmy Flick, just because I don't think Nate Maness is that good. But yeah, Jimmy pretty dusted at the same point. So I can't do it. But I'm also not ever betting Nate Maness in any shape or form. And I do think he could easily screw up and get submitted by Jimmy Flick. I think Jimmy Flick is the much better grappler. I think there's no mystery there. Like, he was so close to dying against Malcolm Gordon. Like, it's about as close as you can ever get to losing to Malcolm Gordon without losing to Malcolm Gordon. And I mean, if he takes half that amount of damage against Nate Maness, he's going to go. So I can't do it, but these are all the reasons why I'm not betting Nate Maness either. So this is just disgusting. I don't know. Lucky, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the book is kind of out on Jimmy Flick, right? And it has been out for quite a long time. He can submit anyone, but if he doesn't, he's pretty much doomed. So, and more often than not, he is doomed. And I think, probably he's doomed against Nate Maness. Maness is a huge flyweight. He's 1-1 since coming to the weight class. He was submitted by Tagir Ulanbekov and then KO'd Mendonca in the next fight. He's 4-2 in the promotion. He lost to Tagir Umar Nurmagomedov, and he lost to Taylor Lapalus when they fought in the Canadian regionals in 2019 in between Lapalus's UFC stints. So really not bad losses at all. And I mean, just because you don't have bad losses doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily mean that you're good. But to get by Jimmy Flick, you don't really need to have a lot. You do need to have the brain power to say, I'm not going to engage in any sort of grappling at all. And I think as long as he does that, he should probably be chillaxing here. I think he probably stops Jimmy Flick. I mean, like you said, this isn't a price that I want to lay on Nate Maness, but, I get him being a big favorite. I think pretty much most of the people you pair Jimmy Flick up with are going to be pretty big favorites against him. And, I feel like Maness is, as long as he doesn't lose all his brain cells and start trying to engage in some kind of a leg lock battle here, I think that, he can probably find a way to get Flick out of there.
Hot take. Lou.
I mean, guys that have crushed Jimmy Flick in the first round of fights, Charles Johnson and Malcolm Gordon. Like, look, man, Nate Maness at -400 is just, in this economy, is disgusting to just visualize. And it's probably accurate for this fight. Because the guys that Flick pulls these submissions on, the Durden fight is like literally 0.001% that could ever happen. And it just, like, if they ran it back, Durden would just absolutely torture him for the sake of his loss being to him. But Flick typically needs somebody to just make a huge mistake or completely death gas. And as long as Maness keeps his neck safe, I don't know how this fight doesn't just end with Maness KO1. So you can get +115 for the round one prop for Maness. I mean, I'd kind of be shocked if it didn't hit.
All right. 2 cents. Bring it on.
I think Lou just zeroed in on it. Like, it's the Cody Durden win, because I think people see that and they're like, I don't know, dude, if he can do that to Cody Durden, he can do that to a lot of fighters, Bobo. And it's just like, Yeah, no, not really. This one and the Jekka Weston Wilson both kind of seem like the same fight where like it seems super fucking obvious what's gonna happen, and like it probably will. Like, yeah, you kind of want to be it almost seems too obvious, but it probably it's like probably looking at a Jekka knockout, probably looking at a fucking Nate Maness knockout. But yeah, I mean, I don't like hate anybody taking a shot on Wilson or like Flick for a sub. I'm sure it's something fucking stupid, but yeah, I think we're probably looking at a Maness KO, boys. First or second round, I reckon.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, minus 535 plus 400 on Flick. Flick is 1-0 in retirement fights. So that is a good point from Noah Allen there. Thank you, Noah, for that stat. It's available on my stat sheet on my Patreon if you're interested. All right. Featured prelim time. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Joshua Van. Yeah, I think this is a very, very good fight. My biggest question with Joshua Van is the grappling and how much he's kind of advanced that, particularly, against someone like Tagir. I think he's going to be pushing the wrestling and the submission throughout this fight. I think he's getting more aggressive, as we saw from the last fight also. And Van, very, very young, so there is definitely the potential still at 22 years old that he's getting a lot better in that realm. He obviously has the loss early on in his career due to the grappling. And, I just think that this is a pretty big step up here. Tagir was supposed to face Alex Perez in this position. Now Joshua Van kind of getting, I think, rocketed up to Tagir like at least one or two fights too soon. So could certainly make this competitive. I'm not going to lie. I did bet Joshua Van at plus 190, I think it was. I just thought that was too wide. I'm also going to bet to Tagir's sub on the other side. And when Tagir wins by decision, I'm fucked. So, either way, my official pick, I would say, is going to be Tagir by submission. I think there's going to be a lot of subs on this card. I just kind of a strange feeling. I think there's some grappling mismatches, but at the same point, I think Joshua just out edging and having just the more action and winning, even like a split decision here, wouldn't surprise me. So, Lou, I think it's a really good fight, though. Lou.
Yeah, and this should be on the main card. This order of fights is just bonkers for this card.
Yes.
I like Tagir here quite a bit. You mentioned the big step up, and it was supposed to be Van against Taira. But either way, from Felipe Bunez to this is, that's something. They're obviously they see something in this kid they like. So one thing I hate immediately is that Van is kind of a slow starter. I don't know that he's won any first rounds in these fights. And the Zalgas fight, I guess, was super, super close. But the Borjas was getting off shots, and then he gassed. I mean, the body work that Van does is a lot of the reason for it. So I'm not trying to say that Borjas is like 5 minutes of cardio and died. Bunez is not like a super cardio machine here. So I just think Tagir is going to, first of all, he's not going to gas. And second of all, he's going to probably just get takedowns. He's going to make Van work a lot harder than he's been used to in his fights. This is just such a massive step up. But it's a style that I think I'm actually surprised they gave Van this fight. I feel like if they're really trying to promote him, like same with Taira, if you're really trying to push this kid and promote him, don't give him hardcore grapplers unless you just want to see what you have with him. Give him other strikers, like give him fights where Van can show off, be exciting. Maybe that round 3 KO is live. This is a fight where I think Tagir, I think he wins by decision. I think it's just I think it's gonna be a really clean all 3 rounds of dominant top time. Let's see what Van's cardio looks like at the end of the second, early third, if Tagir has 8 minutes of control time. And he's not just laying and preying on people either. He's constantly hunting the neck. He's making you move. He's super technical. And he lets you try to get up just to leg lace you, bring you back down. Like Tagir makes you work and gives you like those small openings just to bring you back down and zap your cardio. So I like Tajir here, just very clean 30-27 decision.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Worst case scenario, it is 2 cents.
So I am on the rat here via ratness, wrestling rat ability. But to touch on like what Lou was saying about like kind of wondering like why they were giving Van this fight. I've been kind of asking myself that question, and I think it's kind of like a level up spot for him because he's so fucking young. Like he's 22. So like, let's say he loses. Like, okay, like he's fucking 22 years old. Like in three or 4 years, he'll be what, like 26, 27, like just coming into his prime. So like, I think it's a chance to either prove like, hey, maybe he just fucking boom, like just levels up and chin checks to Gear, who we've seen him rock before and hurt. So there's that opportunity. And also like, hey, just some like real good experience against a good fucking fighter really early in your career. So it's kind of, yeah, maybe just like see what you got. But yeah, Tagir is like the anchor of my like fucking fade the public dog 2-piece. It's Melky Costa and Tagir. It's like plus 115 or something. But like, yeah, I think Van has better hands, and I think that he does have pretty good takedown defense. So yeah, it's a good spot for him to maybe show that he really is the fucking real deal at 22. And dude, that'd be a huge win for him. But yeah, give me Ulan back off here to kind of BMF him and be a rat.
Yep. All right, Lucky, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a good fight. And I agree with Lou. I think you definitely could pop this one onto the main card. There is a good chance it could be a bit boring, though. Van, a lot of hype right now, 3-0 in the UFC, and I do think this kid is good. It seems like people are kind of grouping him in with some other rising stars at 125, like a Taira, like a Mokaev. He's just not on the level of those guys right now. I think Van is going to need a little bit more time before he reaches that standard. I think there's a good chance he can get there. I don't think it's right now. I don't think he's there right now. I will say for 22, he's really, really good. But, Tagir Ulanbekov is a tier above him, in my opinion. He's a huge flyweight. He's going to enjoy a nice size advantage here. He's taller. He's got 5 inches of reach. And, there's an argument to be made that Tagir is undefeated in the UFC. I thought he won the Elliott fight. Obviously, it was close. He follows up his jab really well with an attempt to get to the hips. And, as good as I think Van is, I don't think this is a matchup style that is really dangerous to Tagir. As counterintuitive as it might seem, I actually think Tagir will probably struggle more with fighters who can impose some of their own wrestling and grappling game on him, because he actually doesn't defend wrestling all that well, honestly. And, he's an okay striker, not the best. And I know he didn't struggle with, Cody Durden, but Durden is also a tier below him. But, we saw Tim Elliott give him problems in that area. And in my opinion, Tagir kind of thrives in these matchups that are relatively binary. Like being a better striker than Tagir usually isn't enough to win. He's a really big flyweight. He knows what he needs to do. He's very familiar with let me defend the striking and let me get to the hips. And I think this is a matchup where it's kind of his bread and butter game plan here. I think it's a familiar situation, and I think he wins. And Aaron, I kind of agree with you. I think he can get to a submission here.
Yep. All right. That's what I needed to hear. Plus 180 on Mr. Van now, minus 220 to Tagir. Yeah, good fight. We'll see. Van getting better by the fight. Now, the main card starts out with a 6-2 Josh Quinlan taking on 9-4 Adam Fugit. Quinlan coming off 2 straight losses, getting knocked out badly against Danny Barlow, getting dropped like 3 or 4 times in that fight. Fugit, I picked him in all 3 of his fights, or 2 of his 3 fights, I should say. Against Morales, I did not pick him. But against Mallet, obviously came up short, got pretty beat up in that one before getting submitted. But against Kinoshita, beautiful performance in that one against Japanese Connor. Josh Quinlan has had some PED issues, no USADA anymore. We'll see how Josh comes into this one. But either way, I just think that I hate to be on a public dog, which is Adam Fugit this week, but I'm on Adam Fugit. I think he's a little more sharp and precise in the stand-up, and I think he has a significant edge in the grappling, which is something he's kind of gotten away from in his career a little bit, but I do think is where he kind of can show out and be the first, I think, to potentially submit Quinlan. I also think he lays down some pretty Pretty vicious ground and pound as well. So I think the finish either way is live for Fugit, but I got him at plus 105. I am very, very surprised the line has not moved yet. I don't think Quinlan is very good. And Fugit, my favorite dog of the card, even though he's hardly a dog, and I'll still count. So I like Fugit a lot here, and I think Fugit by sub is kind of a sneaky play, even though Quinlan has yet to be subbed. So 2 cents. What do you think about this one? I will be right back.
Right on.
Move it along the panel as you go. If I'm not back, I'll be back in a second.
Sure. Man, I think we had 21 in here, man. Shout out to everyone that's coming through. Smash the like button for Aaron for sure. So, God, Fugit and Quinlan. Like Aaron said, dude, Fugit is the fucking public dog. I will never bet Josh Quinlan. He's powerful. He's got good boxing, but he's a fucking doofus. I kind of feel like there's a chance he knocks Fugit out. But I don't know. I do. It feels like Fugit or pass from like a betting standpoint. I will be passing, but I just don't have a super strong lean on this one. But I don't know. Is it Lucky or Old Lube next? I'm not sure. Fire away, boys.
I believe it's me. I mean, these two both not really that good. I think that the reason people are starting to think differently about Fugit is because he's kind of better than we thought, maybe. He's still not that good. He blew up Solomon Renfro's party on LFA, and he fought admirably against Michael Morales for 2 rounds, finished Kinoshita, which everyone was very impressed with, and then was dusted by Mike Mallet. Quinlan, on the other hand, pissed hot after a KO on the Contender Series, then kind of collected his free win against Jason Witt. Trey Waters cooked him. Danny Barlow did him very badly, and he's getting a step down in competition. Conversely, so is Adam Fugit getting a big step down in competition here. Fugit's going to be a southpaw on this one. He has a big reach advantage. He gets a lot more output for the judges to score. And I mean, Quinlan just got knocked out very recently. I think Fugit is actually better in the grappling as well. I'm interested in Fugit in this fight. I haven't bet it yet. I might get to a bet here. I like him to win. I think he's just a little better all around. I just really don't think Josh Quinlan is that good. I don't think Fugit's that good either, but Josh Quinlan, I'm really unimpressed with.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, we kind of bring up a lot of weeks this, like, everybody's on Adam Fugit, and the line has moved the other way. Sometimes, whatever. It is what it is. Like, I get it.
Dude, Aaron, you say it a lot. Like, sometimes everybody's right. So, like, just because everyone's on it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be wrong,
Right, exactly. If it was that easy to fade the public, that would be a pretty easy way to bet. But either way, I'm just getting that out in front here real quick. Lou, go ahead with your thoughts on this one.
First of all, I know it's your birthday on Saturday, and you're supposed to be picking this in the group chat.
Yes.
But this is my yam bag special of the card. Southpaw Orthodox. 2 weirdos that look like they love dick shots. I'm here for it. There is a grappling component to Fugit's game. So that's one thing I wanted to get out of the way. You said Fugit's got away from his grappling. I mean, I don't know this for fact, but I imagine after getting violently knocked like silly by Malat, this would be a good excuse to go back to it. Stay out of like complete range, get inside, put Quinlan on his ass, like put this fight where he needs it to be. I mean, he bum rushed Kinoshita, who just, I think he was like terrified and had no idea that Fugit was going to come right at him. Just backed up and like Fugit crushed him. I think we had the sub prop there. So like he bring me great shame by not getting the sub. But I think Fugit's decent. And Quinlan is awful. Look, if Josh Quinlan wasn't like this handsome, cool looking guy, he'd be plus 500 here. Like he's got like this look.
He's got like, aura, as Noah would say.
I'm banning anybody from the engine that says aura in my chat. I'm just banning their chat.
I guess Noah's not showing up in your chat.
This word's gotta go. I'm 46.
Noah's the only one who can say it. And
we bring back the word scrub because that's a great word. Like bring back scrub. Yeah, anyway, Speaking of scrubs, I think Quinlan's a total scrub. Trey Waters landed I know Waters is a big dude, but he's not like a powerhouse. He's landed everything. He landed everything on Quinlan. I think Fugit, while he won't land everything on Quinlan, I think actually will mix it up well. If he's smart, and let's be honest, by Fugit's picture, he does not look like maybe the smartest dude ever. If he just shoots a takedown early to at least put it in Quinlan's mind that that's going to be a part of this, I think Quinlan's going to be on the back foot most of the fight. He's low volume to begin with. I think Fugit's just going to be constantly advancing him, getting him in bad positions, get him against the cage, maybe land a couple of strikes, get it. If he gets a takedown, I think that's the end of the round for Quinlan. So I like Fugit here, pretty good. I don't really care if the public's on him. I like him. I like Fugit by finish. I'm just going to play in the distance. I'm not getting burned again by this fucker picking a sub prop and then he gets a KO. Like, I'm not doing that. But I think he gets a finish, and I think it could come, pretty quick. The Barlow fight, I just want to end with this. Obviously, very different stylistically. I'm not super high on Danny Barlow. I think he's going to be kind of limited. He's got a left hand. It's powerful. But literally the whole fight, Danny Barlow is just like, he's literally holding his left hand right here. The whole fight. He's just waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting. Quinlan's backing up and he's backing up and he's backing up. He telegraphed it like an Irish whip in professional wrestling, and he still landed it and knocked him out. So, Barlow has one weapon, I think. He's not, don't give me like he knows wrestling. Like it's a left hand, that's it. I think Quinlan's going to struggle against anybody who's well-rounded. In fact, he's never fought anybody who's well-rounded at this level, has he? Witt stinks.
He hasn't fought
anybody. A pure striker,
right?
For all intents and purposes. And Barlow is literally a left hand. So,
all right, Justin Villegas is on Fugit, so we can all sleep well now.
Thank God.
That's the
God
real
bless you, Justin. And God bless the Las Vegas Raiders, sir.
Just making our lives easier.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. Plus 100 on Fugit currently, and minus 120 to Quinlan. I don't get it at all. A lot of guys from the LFA that I never wanted to see in the UFC that are making it to the UFC. It's great.
Dude, every Noah Allen comment is going to have a fucking aura in it.
Yeah, forever. Next fight of 125 mismatch, Asu Alam. There's a few flyweight mismatches. Asa Alamayev taking on Jose Johnson here. If Jose Johnson makes it down to 125, this is probably going to be a 132 catchweight fight, honestly. But, Asu, very good grappler, uses the wrestling. He's willing to use it as well. And I just think he's going to grind. I'm just going to keep it pretty short here. I think this is a pretty big mismatch. I think he grinds down Jose before putting him away by submission. So a pretty clear submission spot. I get it. The submission's minus 110. Disgusting. Minus 650 favorite Asu Alamayev. But I just think that if Jose makes it to 125, that's his win. And then SD Crusader mentioning the Asu sub or TKO at plus 750. Is this fight off, or are you just predicting it's going to be off? Because that wouldn't surprise me either. But Asu, I just think he's minus 650, but not going to be getting involved with too much here with this fight because I just think he subs him. But if you're on that TKO, good for you, because I do think Jose is going to be compromised if he does make this weight somehow. So, yeah. Lucky, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I've kind of heard people try to give Johnson the benefit of the doubt and saying, well, he's 16-8, but he's pretty. I don't think this guy's good. Just straight up, I don't think highly of his ability at all. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's long for the UFC. He's 16-8, up and down career on the regionals. We've seen him lose and or struggle against a lot of grapplers. Already a massive bantamweight coming to flyweight. I don't even know how that's going to work. 6 feet at flyweight is going to be insane. And I think it's going to come at a substantial price. I think this guy's going to be sucked out and drained. Almabayev, will be at a big size disadvantage, but I really don't think it's going to matter once they're on the ground. And I think Almabayev will be able to get him down. I think he's going to be climbing all over him until he wraps up a submission. and he's the last leg of a chalk donkey parlay I had with Phil DeFries on KSW. I had Almabayev at minus like 370 or something like that to close that out. So that's what I have here.
That's great. Yeah, minus 650 at this point. Lou.
Yeah, and he's going to look every bit of minus 650 in this fight. So it does appear from the socials of Jose Johnson that he's on track. He's on track to make weight, having a good cut. So shockingly enough, I think this fight will happen. As always with Jose Johnson, I'm only concerned with one thing, and that is how many ladies of the night he has at cage side. The Contender Series fight, he had 2. He won. His last fight, he had 0 and he lost. Pretty simple math. Just get a bunch of hoes and, get to the pay window. He's going to get taken down. He's going to get smashed. Thing's going to be over. And if you can find like an Asu and under 1.5, like, I don't know if my one book, I know they do these parlays. I don't know if they're out yet, but I would be interested in, because I think it's another fight where if he gets one takedown in the first, even if he doesn't finish him, I don't know. I mean, Jose coming out in the second round is going to just be dead. So, I mean, Asu round 2 is like just a disgusting plus 390. It's absolutely horrendous. Asu and under 1.5 is plus 150. That's probably what happens here.
I mean, I don't see how this fight looks any different than the Ode Osborne fight also in any way.
Yeah, I mean, and Jose's taller, so like, how is he going to like, I don't know how he stops any attempt at a takedown.
Right.
Here, Asu 1, if you like Asu round 1, round 2, that's plus 112. I think that's super solid value here. And if this thing hits the third round, then Asu is like the worst finisher in the history of, like, if he has 9 minutes of control time and no finish against a guy who just has 0 chance to really have good cardio for that long, I don't know. But round 1, round 2 at plus money seems like a decent value spot for me.
Yeah. Shout out to 25 in the building right now. Appreciate all the support. 2 cents. What's your thoughts on this flyweight mismatch?
This is reminding me a lot of Katona and Butler. Everyone's like, "Oh, dude, Butler's gonna be so big at this weight class." It's like, okay, and
no one said that.
He's gonna get taken. Not like, just people were saying that. Like, dude, like Jesse Butler is gonna be fucking
Get
huge.
those people out of your life.
It's like, dude, that's like, who fucking cares? Like,
Right.
gonna get like Asu's gonna smash this motherfucker. I mean, it is fucking like Pepper Jack Johnson. I know he might have some fucking multi-talented ladies of the evening, but I don't know, man. Like, yeah, it's chalky, but again, I mean, how many times have we fucking said it already on this card? Like, he probably gets it done. This is that kind of card, and also like,
I really do think this guy justifies this inflated number. So, like, it's one of the few times where I have an over 500 in the Zhongle, which I know what's the point, but it might make, it's just on a card like this, I'm going to take the free square, which I do think Asu is, but at minus 625, what is it really? Kazakhstan is the greatest country in the world. All right. Next fight. I love Miles Johns so much since he's come back from his Adderall suspension because we keep getting gift money lines. And I feel like, again, minus 130 on Miles Johns against Douglas Silva de Andrade, who was absolutely having like a very, very hard time in his last fight, against Cody Stamann. Stamann dropping him, I think, twice in the third round with strikes. I mean, Douglas Silva, and that fight was also at 140 as well. This fight going to be at 135, presumably. And I just think Douglas Silva kind of getting old quick here, and Miles Johns still only 29 years old. And now with no USADA, fully taking advantage of that, and not even, I think, trying to hide it at all. And he's still like getting these minus 140 line in his last fight against Cody Gibson and minus 130 here. I just think that he's got pretty good striking defense. Also throws some good, both guys throw really good leg kicks. Both guys have power for sure. I think Johns is more well-rounded. I think he's got the better gas tank without USADA as well. I think minus 130 Miles Johns is a gift. I bet that separately. I felt similarly last week with Ludwig Klein against Moises, where it was just a straight-up skill and physical mismatch. And I think here, physically, it's closer because Douglas Silva is a freak, but he's also 38 years old. And I just think that Silva, yeah, he can always flash with the, knockout. But I think at the same point, I just think Miles Johns kind of is turning a corner here. I think just shows the level here. So I'm very confident on him. He's one of my favorites on the card at minus 130. I bet him separately as well. So I got Miles Johns in the spot. Luke.
I'm going to be on the other side of you on this one. I'm not going to bet it. I'm not betting this one for the small plus money. But, I mean, if we're going to talk about steroids in the post-USADA era, every Brazilian in the UFC is taking all the steroids in the post-USADA era.
Accurate. There's a lot of drugs in this fight.
So you broke down a lot of the reasons why Miles John, I mean, the kicking game is going to be, let's call it a push for the kicking game. I think Silva throws harder. He's just not as and Johns is way more accurate and has more volume. My bigger concern here is who do I like more to fight for my money and as this fight goes on. And I trust Silva Andrade to at least fight for my money late in fights. Like the Morozov fight was insane. Miles Johns, to me, I mean, who's his best win? That's the thing is he shows flashes of brilliance. I feel like all around his wrestling's good, striking's good. He's got an underrated power, but who's he beating? I mean, who would you say is his best win he's ever had? And I know not all of it's his fault, but the Castaneda look I thought was bad. Batista's forgivable. I guess Natividad was a prospect at that point, but he doesn't really have what I would call Vince Rouse isn't a good win.
This would be his best win.
And Andrade's been in there with a lot of top tier talent. I mean, I know Jan finished him, but he's fought everybody in this division. If he comes in with all the steroids on Friday and this line moves a little more favorable to me, maybe I'll hit it. But yeah, give me the guy that's going to fight harder for my money. And I got to hope that he at least wins the first round. Because if he doesn't, then this could be a long night for him. This could be, if Johns takes the first 2 rounds and he's not gassed, I could definitely see him just forcing a super ugly 3rd round against the cage, not letting Andrade get anything off, just cage push for 4.5 minutes. So hopefully Andrade can win one of the first 2, but I lean him in this stop.
Interesting. 2 cents. Where do you lean in this one?
I lean towards pass. I'm interested in just watching this fight because I think it's a good one and I don't really want to sweat it. And I think it's going to be fucking sweaty, boys. I do think Douglas is a live dog. I considered it's kind of weird, man. It's because the line has been sort of kind of pick 'em and little bit of yo-yoing back. I can't remember who's the dog now. It might be Douglas, but yeah. So I don't know, man. I kind of slightly favor Johns. I feel like he's one of those guys. He kind of gets dogged on a little bit. I don't think he's quite as bad as some people say, but I don't think he's good as some of his fans say either. Douglas does have a massive experience advantage, but he is 38, but there's no USADA. So it's a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous. I'm going to pick Johns ever so slightly, but I do think it's a good fight. I think it feels because both of them swing really hard and hit pretty fucking hard that it's going to finish, but I actually think it hits the cards. I'll say John by a greasy split, but I think it's a good fight.
All right, Lucky.
Yeah, this is a good fight. Pretty close one. I can't say I'm really wowed by any one of Miles John's wins, but he has piled up a lot of solid performances and been very successful at the UFC level. He has a solid process. You know what you're getting out of him. Douglas also is a solid fighter, and he's had to deal with a tougher strength of schedule for sure. Wins over Stamen, Morozov, Henan Barao, Marlon Vera. Lost to Saeed Nurmagomedov, Lerone Murphy, Piotr Jan, Rob Font. The issue that I have with him is he's about to turn 39, and I know he's on steroids, blah blah blah, but he's still a 39-year-old man. That's really the only apprehension I have with him. And obviously, you wouldn't know it from looking at him. He looks great. Miles John's also in great shape. He had a little 5-month suspension himself after the Dan Argueta fight. And, Miles John's is very defensively responsible in the striking. He's got a pretty clean game. I think Andrade probably a little bit more skill, but giving up almost 9 years in youth gives me a little pause here. And I kind of feel like this fight, the way I felt about the Harris and Chaos Williams fight a couple weeks ago, where when I first looked at it, I was like, okay, Carlston Harris. But then as the week went on, I was like, I don't know, he's getting a little older. I feel like Chaos is going to get him. And that's kind of how I feel this week about this one. I think Miles Johns, I'm going to lean slightly towards that side. I think it's a close one. I'm not really interested in betting it. I'm not going to pay to find out, but I'm going to side with Miles Johns to win here.
Is anybody else disturbed that he got dropped by Cody Stamen at 140 twice in the third round by strikes? Like, that's not a concern for the 39-year-old who's going to have to cut 5 more pounds. No.
Dude, that was like 19 steroid cycles ago. He's fine.
Either way, they're both going to be on steroids. So it's like both are going to be on really good steroids too. So I don't think that's relevant here. I think the minus 130 going to be a gift like the Ludovic. So, but we shall see. Plus 110 to Douglas Silva. Next fight here. I am open and available to be sold on Lucas Almeida, guys. I just watched 4 Lucas Almeida fights during this breakdown. Watched them. And, some of them he looked kind of good at points. He was tough. And then other times he looked like he was crumbled and wilting before the fight even started. Timmy Kawamba came off a close split decision up a weight class to a guy who we're not really sure how good he is either. And Timmy is, not really faced a ton of high-level competition yet. He beat our favorite guy to, talk about, Mateo Vogel, by decision. Then he knocked out Michael Stack, an LFA legend that we know shouldn't even be in the LFA. So that was great. Timmy has the potential to get better and better, but I just don't know how good he is. And minus 200, I can't in good conscience or faith do that. So 2 cents, you're going to start selling me on Lucas Almeida, and I'll let you know if any of you sell me by the end of it. But I'm on Timmy by decision. It just feels wrong, though. Maybe Timmy gets a knockout because Lucas does seem to wilt quickly and has looked really, really bad his last couple. 2 cents, what's your thoughts on this one?
I love that you think that I'm going to be the one to sell you on Almeida. Nah, dude, I'm actually kind of high on Timothy Kwamba here.
Good.
Yeah, I think he gets it done. I think he's, like you said, Almeida's not a very good nail. I don't think he's quite like, I don't know, man. Feely does have sneaky power. So I'm not going to say, oh, dude, I knocked out by Feely. Like, that's some fucking huge knock on him. Like, his losses are decent, like Sabatini, Zellhuber. Those aren't like, oh, dude, not losing to total bums. The Trezano win is pretty decent, but I don't know, man. I just feel like Kwamba's going to be more well-rounded. I feel like he'll be the stronger wrestler. I feel like he can win a decision, maybe get a knockout. So it's not something that, I don't know. I feel like Kwamba is like the furthest thing from the L word, but I do think he wins. And I don't know, maybe like a sweaty moment or two, but yeah, give me Timothy Kwamba, and I got him in a parlay too. So let's fucking go.
Yeah, I know. I have him in the Zhongli at one point, felt wrong. So Lucky, what's your thoughts on this one?
It's an interesting fight. I think Kwamba has some solid skills. He did well regionally, started his MMA career with a 3-0 CFFC run. I love to see that. and had some impressive wins, if you really know the Northeast regionals for how young he was and how earlier in his career it was. Later on, Mateo Vogel is a great name and has won on Contender Series, if you believe he won that fight, which I don't, but it was very close. Didn't get the UFC contract for that performance, went back to the regionals, knocked out Michael Stack in his next fight. And Vogel's one of those guys that has kind of a record that you're like, maybe he's not that good, but he is really good. Michael Stack is one of those guys that looks like he's really good, but he's actually not. And then, 1 week later after that, he got the UFC call and lost his debut to a fellow Contender Series alum in Balaji Oki. And that was obviously up a weight class, very short notice. And Kawamba, if he finds a way to always be in the fight, he never really gets blown out. He's pretty steady. I think the guy's good. Almeida is, the typical Brazilian finisher that the UFC likes to pluck out. He has a 100% finish rate. Hasn't had the most success so far in his UFC stint. He lost for the first time in his career on Contender Series to Zellhuber. Had a great first round, but kind of faded off in the next two. He went back to Brazil, got a quick win on the regionals, and got brought back into the UFC less than a year later. Debuted against Trezano and was dropped in the first round. Had a huge round two, dropped him back, dropped him again in the third round, and finished him. And the next two fights just weren't really good for him. Sabatini dominated him, subbed him, Feely KO'd him and won. But Timothy Kawamba is not those guys. This is a step down in competition for Almeida. And there's a good case to be made that, this is the least burdensome matchup that he's been tasked with in the UFC thus far, depending on your opinion of Trezano or what you think about Andre Feely at this juncture in time. And, I like Kawamba. I think he's good, but, he's no world beater. He won a Contender Series and Dana said, thanks, but no thanks. He is a lot younger. He's going to be making improvements. But in my opinion, this is just a little bit of a wide line. And I'm going to be taking a look at this Almeida line. Maybe I get to the window on it, depending on what it looks like closer to the fight.
Lou.
I'm going to give you a bet for this fight. I'll sell you on something, but it's going to be a little different than what you were looking at.
Fine.
So I don't believe that if one side is wrong, the other side is inherently right. But I don't know how Kawamba looks minus 200 here. I'm just going to add to what Lucky said, since he obviously stole my notes. No, I'm just busting his balls. Kawamba's not a high volume guy. Let's throw the Sabatini fight against Almeida out, because that's just a completely different stylistic fight. The Zellhuber fight, Zellhuber throws a lot of volume, and Almeida was throwing back with him. The Feely fight, look, Feely's always super live early because he comes out and he throws a ton of strikes early. I think if you run that fight 10 times, Feely's knocking him out in the first round maybe twice. I think Almeida typically will hang in there at least on the feet with Feely. I think Feely's skilled. That's not a knock on Feely, but it felt like more of oh my God, he just landed early and now he's landing everything. And I think he hurt him on the first shot 25, 30 seconds in, and then just kind of took over. Kawamba doesn't really fight like that. So I don't know how Kawamba, who is not going to throw in a ton of wrestling, he's not going to grapple for 15 minutes. And if he does, he's not like Sabatini, where he's getting top time the whole time. And he's not high volume. So I don't know how Kawamba looks minus 200. I think all the optics on the feet are going to be from Almeida. He throws more volume. Everything has more of a snap. He's not as technical maybe as Kawamba. Maybe he is. I think Almeida's probably a little more wild. But he certainly, when he lands, he has great optics. I like Almeida plus 3.5 on the spread. It's minus 105. As long as he doesn't get finished, I think he's going to decisively win at least one round by just damage alone. So I don't know how Kawamba looks minus 200 here. So I would lean the Almeida. And I don't something UFC wants to really push either one of these guys. Lucky said it right. He won a Contender Series, and they're like, yep, great. Almeida's getting killed, and they're like, we love this guy. So it's really weird matchmaking. It's such a strange matchup, because you know how the UFC is guys like Lacerda, where it's you can't lose enough. We love booking you. Oh, you missed weight? No problem. We'll get you on. They love some of these guys.
Yeah.
Maybe Almeida's just one of these guys they love. They're like, we're just going to keep putting him in matchup, because there's no reason this should be on a main card of anything. This should be the curtain jerker, probably. Not on a main card. It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, Tajir is on the fucking prelims. None of this makes sense the way it is. So I like Almeida plus 3.5 on the spread. Maybe Quinn wins like a weird, like rigged decision. But I think if this is on the feet for 5 minutes and there's no grappling, I don't know how you don't favor Almeida. He's gonna throw him more, and he's gonna have the optics of like landing the harder shot. So
yeah, I also don't know how Kwamba got a split decision in his last fight against Boaji.
And Oki, look, you guys mentioned short notice up weight class, and Oki's raw, but he's like kind of a super athlete, but he's another guy. He's kind of low volume. Mm-hmm. He's just learning. Almeida is probably a finished product at this point. I think we know what we have with Almeida. So Oki is just kind of like growing into like what he's supposed to be as a fighter, but he's so physical, and Kwamba but neither guy did shit. Almeida's not going to not do anything in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to force Kwamba to do something. So I think Almeida at least wins one round. You're giving me almost even money for it.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, minus 198 to Timmy, plus 164 to Mr. Almeida. Move on to the next fight that should not take very long, hopefully, for the fight to happen and hopefully for this breakdown. Ikram Aliskerov versus Antonio Trocoli. I wonder. Ikram is going to destroy him maybe inside 60 seconds. This is going to be a destruction. Let's go, Lucky.
So you guys want to know about this fight, huh? You came to the right guy. Aliskerov wins. Another thing you want to know something else about this fight? Trocoli isn't good. Came back after 5 years off 3 years ago. Okay, so think about that. Won a fight on the Brazilian regionals. You won in Contender Series in 2016, but popped for PEDs. Was scheduled against OSB, but pulled out 2 years ago. Then he's randomly back in the mix. They wanted him to lose to Umar Sy recently. He pulled out of that. So the UFC said, okay, great. We have another fight for you, and it's Ikram Aliskerov, who's a very dangerous fighter. He's 15-1, famously having only lost to Chimaev, 2-0 in the UFC with 2 KOs after winning via round 1 Kimura on Contender Series. Yeah, Aliskerov's going to beat this guy. That's all there is to it.
Well said. Lou?
I have 0.1 units to win 0.000002 units.
Good job.
On Aliskerov here. It's my stone cold lock of the century of the week. I'm not breaking this fight down. There's no reason to.
Thank you.
Next.
All right, 2 cents.
Yeah, Ikram by some early is my beady-eyed remark. So I got it.
Thank you and your beady eyes. All right, good job. Minus 1200.
Hey, Aaron, is this a rare time when minus 14 actually has value?
Yeah, sure. You can throw it into Zhongli for an extra.
Like he's gonna look minus 10,000. I mean, I think there's actually like weird. I'm never parlaying it, but I think there's actually value on it.
Strange value. I'll agree. Sure, why not? All right, main event time. This is a great main event. I'm really excited for this one. The return of Alex Perez has fully begun now. It started with the Makayev fight, where he all but won the fight, and then he came back against Matthias Nicolaou and knocked out the Rat. Did us all a favor. Tatsu Taira, the 23-year-old Japanese or 24-year-old Japanese product here, 15-0, coming off a knockout of Carlos Hernandez 6 months ago, and now he's stepping up to a main event to fight Alex Perez. Yeah, this is a interesting fight. I get it that Tatsu Taira, this is a massive step up in competition. He's never fought 5 rounds. Not particularly worried about the latter part. The step up in competition obviously is a concern. Alex Perez, very good defensive wrestler, very good with the striking. The leg kicks, I think, could really play a factor against Taira as well. Taira's shown that's kind of been effective against him at times. At the same point, I am not quite sold on this complete resurrection of Alex Perez, and that, he has this massive advantage with this going 5 rounds. He was supposed to fight Tagir in this spot, in a 3-round spot. I think he's kind of rushing to get to the 5 rounds. And I think this one's going to kind of go long. I think this will, be one where I think Taira is going to be a big minute winner. I think Alex Perez could have moments that he's winning. And so this could get kind of dicey as it goes, but I got Taira by a decision here. I'm not freaking out and throwing him in every parlay, but at minus 180, I did put him in a few parlays as well. And I think this is just we'll find out a lot about both these fighters, but I'm not completely sold on the return of Perez yet. And I think Taira is the real deal. I think his striking's a little bit better than like a Makaev, for example. And Makaev was getting, the better Perez at points and on the feet, but more than my liking. And I just think Taira is kind of going to be more and more improved with each fight. I think that, the takedown kind of the wrestling is not necessarily the make or break either in this spot. So it could just be a very close fight through the 5, but I got Taira by decision at plus 400 and also have him potentially in the Zhangli. So we'll see if Perez, shows up healthy. We'll see how he looks in a 5-round fight here. And we'll see, he looks good in the grappling until he doesn't also. So if Taira is that next level, I think he could submit him also in the spot. Lou.
Like, what are they doing with Perez, man? Are they just like, look, man, you have so many cancellations. We're going to just fight 8 times this year. Like, we're just running out your contract. Like every month you're going to fight. He goes from a loss against Makaev, where Makaev looked like an absolute bum gasser, shooting just awful takedowns. And Perez didn't throw shit back at him. That was close. But Makaev, that's the worst he ever looked. So what do they reward? They reward him with a main event off a loss. And then I think we picked Perez in that on this show. More like a Nicolau fade, though. It wasn't like, well, Perez is awesome. It's like Nicolau is just like does nothing for me with his low volume. So 3 fights in 3 months, 3 camps, and that like a second camp in a row for a 5-round fight. And the people are just looking at his last fight and being like, oh man, Perez, the value side. And like, do people remember that one of his hobbies is getting submitted in the first round, being reckless and like when fights start? Like, that's kind of what he does. Now, Taira is not Pantoja when it comes to like this well-rounded, perfectly timed grappling game. But man, Taira is just an animal strength-wise. He's only going to get better. His positional control is probably what I needed to work on the most. Like that Aguilar fight, like Aguilar kept getting like out of spots. But he's one of these guys where like they're never going to say you had a good fight. They're going to look at the bad and be like, okay, this is where you lost control. Like you went for a submission here, like maintained control. Like you remember when Bo Nickel had the arm triangle choke on Pickett, but he was still in mount? Like he never even did the hold right. He just stayed in mount and choked them out. Mm-hmm. Instead of going, I think Taira could do that. I feel like Taira's strong enough to pull off moves like that where he never has to relinquish control of the grappling, but could literally just put Perez in so many bad spots that there's no defense he can do. I don't trust Perez to have cardio over 15 minutes if Taira is just dominating him on the ground. Taira makes people work. Like he just doesn't sit there. He's calculated. He's smart. He moves so quickly too. Like when he transitions from like, he's got a body scissors and then like just slams the neck. Like it's not like slowly working a choke. Like it's like this dude reads body language really well. I'm super impressed with Taira. I realize like there's some people that just think he's like the uncrowned champ. I don't yet, but I'm really impressed the fact that he's fought 15 minutes. His control is going to get better. Perez is just, I don't know, man. It's too much in too short a time for a guy that, I mean, if this was just a boxing match, I still don't know that I would favor Perez because I think Taira's probably more powerful. His hands are like insane. Dude, he has that wrestling strength, like that grip strength from wrestling for so many years. So I like Taira everywhere here. The under 2.5 is minus money, which you have to think it's 2.5 because they think Taira is just going to smash this guy early. And I'm going to take Taira round 1 submission, man. I think he just takes him down and fucks him up.
I like it. 2 cents. What's your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, I agree with what you and Lou said here. I'm not quite as confident on Tatsuro, but I do think he's the side, and it's not really like if he does fucking put a butt whooping on Perez, you ain't gonna get him close to this number probably for a little bit, but they are fast tracking him. So yeah, I don't know, man. And like Lou said, like he does hit hard, man. Like he's fucking heavy handed. He's the first dude to ever knock out Carlos Hernandez. I know that's not like, it's something to fucking write home about necessarily, but I do think unless Perez knocks him out, I just don't see it. Like Perez is known for his title fights and like having these incredible losses. But other than like Jussier Formiga, like he ain't really got no fucking good wins. Like he's beaten dudes that aren't in the UFC anymore, like in like fucking Shorty Torres. Like, dude, I don't know, man. Perez 32, like Taira's 24. Like they're giving Taira his like step up showcase spot here. That's kind of what it seems like. It's an Apex card, so what the fuck else would it be for? It ain't for the fucking fights before this. So yeah, I think they want Taira to show up and show out, and I think he probably does. I think it's probably a sub. That's what Perez likes to do when he loses. So yeah, give me a Tatsuro by, I will say, second round submission. I'm happy. Thank you. I think he gets it done.
I'm looking something up just for you guys. Can anybody hear me?
Sick.
Yeah, I can hear you. Lucky, bring us home. Lou, you can look up what you need to, but Lucky, bring us home.
Yeah, I mean, as a product on TV, watching fights, I love Tatsuhiro Taira. He's a really good fighter. I was high on him before he had his first UFC fight. I remember people were acting like Carlos Candelario had something for him in that fight. I parlayed him up at minus 3XX or whatever it was in that fight. I mean, that's just completely and utterly different levels altogether. He's really impressive. He's one of the top prospects at flyweight, which is a division that's wide open right now. These young guys are going to start coming in and filling the void left behind by the old guard. Moreno's on sabbatical, Figueiredo's gone, Pantoja's like 34, 35. There's very few fighters at flyweight right now that I would not pick Taira to win against, to be honest. And Perez is one of the guys I would pick Taira to beat. So I am going to be picking Taira here. Perez is very good. Taira, younger, he's bigger. He's the better submission grappler. He's very athletic. Like Lou touched on, he's a special athlete, this guy. The worry that I have with him is the striking defense. I think that he has power in his hands. He's a bit of a hitter. But he does get hit a little bit. He can get it clean sometimes. I'd like to see that, defense continue to ameliorate fight to fight. But I just think Taira's a bad matchup for Perez, man. Perez loses on the ground. He has 8 losses. 6 of them were finishes, 5 of them by sub. One of them was a knockout, and I believe it was ground and pound, so it was still on the ground. Perez does have some decent submission offense himself, but I think that's going to be, negated by Taira. Perez isn't easy to get down by any means, but it can be done. And when it is done, he struggles. And Taira is just a monster down there. And, Lou touched on his positional control, and he does kind of make a couple mistakes because he tends to rush to get to the mount really quickly. But, he just has a much better jiu-jitsu game than a guy like Makayev has. And, he can also create pockets of grappling without needing to really get it to the ground as well. Like, you have to be careful with him in the clinch and in tight. And Perez likes to be in tight and close the distance. So I think we're going to get a lot of those exchanges. Taira, got to tuck that chin because Perez can crack and Taira can be hit. But I just think this is a tough matchup for Alex Perez. I agree with Taira being the favorite and kind of, despite the, maybe the unknowns around him at this level of competition, I think, like you guys said, I think he can win via submission. And, the UFC's pushing this Japan market right now. Who did they just announce the signing of? Big guy from Ryzen, Kaya Sakura. Yeah. Big signing. Now we have Taira in the main event here. We got that guy, Ray Tsuruya, whatever that guy's name is, coming up soon on a pay-per-view card as well. So, I like Taira here. I might lay the wood on him as well.
Yeah, no, I feel you. He is part of the Zhang Ali as well. And at minus 185, I agree with 2 cents. This could be a price you're not getting out of many times soon. He's up to minus 192 as of now. But real quick, we'll go to Lou. Go ahead.
So this might seem square, but on FanDuel, Taira around 1, 2, 3 or sub plus 220. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think if this fight gets out of the third, maybe Perez is taking over and landing some shots. So I feel like I'm not saying Taira has to do it early, but plus 220 is really not bad in this spot, I think, for that prop.
Not at all. Not at all. And real quick, we'll go around the panel, and I'll just go through the Zhongli real quick. And I did decide this week to make the Zhongli a 6-piece Zhongli because we have 2 over minus 500s. Nate Manis and Asu are making the Zhongli. But along with them, Adam Fugit obviously making the Zhongli. So we're starting out with the dog on the Zhongli. I did put Garrett Armfield in there along with Miles Johns and Tatsu Taira along with Asu to give you a plus 1,035. So did get it to 4 digits there with a couple very, very juice favorites there, but plus 1,035. Again, that is Fugit, Manis, Armfield, Asu, Miles Johns, and Tatsu Taira. So real quick, going to go around the panel. Good breakdown. 2 cents. Where can people find you?
First of all, as always, Aaron, thank you for having me. And shout out to all you guys, everyone in the chat. Smash the like button for Aaron before you get your asses up out of here. You can find me at my channel right there, just my 2 cents. I will be pre-gaming on Saturday before the fights, as I'm one to do. So y'all come on through, man. I'll drop the link for anybody that wants it. Come through. We'll talk some shit and get hyped for these fights. For the best fight card in the whole fucking world, UFC Vegas 93. Pilastri is my big play, and I got a couple parlays too. And I will be tailing the Zhang Li. So yeah, I feel like the old Zhang Li is due for another one. So let's fucking go. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, appreciate it. 2 cents. And it has been a while. First round fight, probably Jika or the Nate Manis fight. But yeah, Lou, what you got coming up the rest of the week? Appreciate
or
it.
Alice Scarroff. They're all probably
more Alice Scarroff. All 3 of them. You can parlay all 3.
pretty safe. I'm gonna do a Euros break. As always, by the way, I love being on the panel with you young kids, you kids and your drugs. I'll be at the Parsippany Laugh Factory Friday from 7 to 8. That'll be a good time for don't bring the kids. Don't bring the kids.
Not the Parsippany.
I'm going to do a video I'm going to release on the channel. I won't do it live, but I'm going to break down the Euros tomorrow. Not player props, just like kind of group by group, key games, some bets that I like for the next 2 weeks. We don't have lines for the third match day, but did the best I could. Tournament futures. Spoiler, I'm not picking England. And then tomorrow at midnight, the happiest hour on the MMA channel, MMA Engine channel, with my guy Monk Maddox at midnight, where I will not break down fights seriously like I did tonight. You guys agreed with me way too much. I'm terrified. We're all fucked. When Lucky agrees with me more than twice on a breakdown, we're done. We're screwed. I know it's a good breakdown, but also I worry.
Nah, nothing to worry about here. And
I'm gonna come heckle you at your show like Toby.
I love that, dude. I love when people come in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate you making it on, man. And Lucky, you got nothing coming up the rest of the week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Find me on Twitter. Bet MMA tips in the bio. That's all.
Yep. All right. That'll do it for the show, everybody. We'll see you next week. I'll be a year older. Peace out.